Most people know me as the guy, the guru behind the gurus. Like, I'm that guy in this space. That's how I built my entire reputation. That's how I built my whole business. And I just want to give you that story on how, although I've been a part of all that stuff since I was 16 years old, I found it all to be not true. And I don't want to blanket statement anything. I think that's a mistake a lot of Christians make, and they kind of clump everything into demons. And that's just not true at all. Like, not everything's a demon, not everything's demonic. And you got to be very careful with that mindset, because I think, like, if I just say, oh, all Muslims are bad, like, what are you talking about, dude? People are people. My best friend's a Muslim. I respect all faiths. But in my walk, I have seen there are darker things, but you can't just blanket statement. And I see a lot of Christians do that, and I don't really think it's rooted in wisdom, honestly. And I'm not saying like play with fire, but it takes real discernment to be able to know what is of God and what isn't. And you have to be rooted in your faith for sure. But I think Christians could do a better job, just as someone who was anti-Christian for many, many years, building a bridge. And you do that by looking to understand, looking to provide wisdom based off scripture, based off Jesus, based off truth, versus like, you can't do that, because a lot of people in the new age, in the new thought, in the occult, these are, I would argue, most of the time, some of the very spiritually advanced people. Most of them have been a part of structured religions, but because of the dogmas, they get out of them and they seek elsewhere, and they're seeking somewhere where there's two truths and a lie. And over time, that becomes a very bad thing. But in the beginning, you can't discern it. There has to be a higher standard for Christians. I really think that. And I just wanted to start this video by that. I will also say I'm a baby Christian. I've been studying this whole thing for a couple years. It took me a while to actually accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. But that didn't happen till, early this year. So I wasn't just somebody who went from one spiritual extreme to the other. I want to make that really clear, because a lot of people are like giving me crap for, jumping from all the other stuff I was a part of to now this. Is like, yo, this was a long process that I rejected for a long time. I was literally the guy that used to call Christians schizophrenic. I mean, I was like, dude, this makes no sense. These people have no idea what real spirituality is. And of course, that was my ego, that was my pride, and that was also my ignorance, because I never really I thought I knew what was in the Bible without ever fully reading it. I think a lot of people feel that way, and that should be a question in itself. With that said, I want to jump into my very short version of my testimonial of coming to Christ. I actually filmed this video probably about 3 months ago, and it was 6.5 hours long. Just to give you context, I'm going to make this under an hour. So there's a lot here, and I'm going to skip a lot. My goal with this is to go across some of the main points and maybe give you a better inside look as to why I feel a responsibility to expose people like Billy, even though at one time I was close to them. This whole thing started when I was 16 years old. I got introduced to things like the law of attraction, and my first spiritual teacher was a man named Bob Proctor. This is me at one of his seminars. When I met Bob Proctor, he has spiritual gifts. Bob Proctor had, he recently passed away. Bob Proctor had real spiritual gifts. He would go up to people in the crowd, and he would be able to know everything about them without them saying a word. Okay, so as a 16-year-old kid, I'm like, whoa, this is cool. I want to learn how to do that. So that was like one of my first experiences of a deeper spiritual truth. I didn't grow up in a religious family. So it's like your first experiences of something more or something supernatural. You're like, whoa, there's clearly truth rooted in this. So that was all it took for me to become obsessed. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to speak on stages helping people, because I would argue he did help people. And not to, like, again, I'm not here to say what's right and wrong. You have to draw your own conclusions on that. If knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have done that, but I didn't know any better. I was a 16-year-old kid. So that's how this all started. And then I started using that information that Bob Proctor shares about the power of your mind and how thoughts become things and how you have to feel the future you want to have before it's here. And it worked. By the time I was 17 years old, I had a $50,000 Mercedes Benz that I paid for with my own money in high school. And then, I was making a couple $1,000s a month in high school. Like, these things work, and I will never say they don't work, because that's just not true. But of course, this whole conversation is very nuanced. After that, I was using a lot of these techniques, if you will, from Bob Proctor and others to create more success in my life, but to also relieve me from anxiety. I used to suffer with severe anxiety, panic attacks every single day. I'd get depressed. When I wasn't depressed, I was anxious. I was high and low. And that's a whole nother story. I'm not going to get too deep into that in this video because I don't think it's fully relevant. But for me, what Bob's information did was it gave me a vision of my life. Like, in the Bible, it talks about without a vision, people perish. I had no vision. I had no direction. I was not a school smart kid. I was always an odd kid. I didn't like play sports. I played with my friends like backyard football, but that's a little different than like organized sports. Like, I didn't know where I fit in. And I feel like this information became my God. I mean, this was like helping my anxiety. This was helping me create more financial success. And I'm looking at all my friends and I'm like, they're spending time trying to get girls and party on the weekend. I'm over here trying to like heal my anxiety and like create something for myself. So I matured really fast, and I went through a lot of pain when I was young. I went through tremendous amount of abuse, and again, I don't want to be the victim. There's a lot to all of that, and I'm not going to go too deep into that, but I want to give you the psychology of me. I had a father wound. I had a mother wound. So these figures with power I cling to, specifically men, looking for them to fill the void from my father. My dad is an incredible man. I love my father, but we all have things with our parents. So I didn't get the nurturing I really needed, and I didn't get the guidance I needed. So if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that's what happened to me my whole life. So I'm doing the Bob Proctor thing. Long story short, the business I was working for went out of business. My income got shut off overnight. I had to get a job, and I hated that idea because I was always an entrepreneur, and that was like my thing, right? Because I knew I wasn't going to go to school, so I was going to be a businessman. And these are things Bob and other people put inside my head. When I went into sales, and it was specifically door-to-door sales, and I got this job because I had a Mercedes Benz, I had rent to pay for. I mean, my expenses were like $2,000 a month, and my income got shut off overnight. I'm an 18-year-old kid. So I went into, one of my buddies was like, dude, I'm pulling in almost $1,000 a week. I think you could do it. And I was like, gosh, I guess I will. So I'm in Michigan, knocking doors in the middle of winter, literally selling cable. I mean, this is what I did. And I became very bitter. I was like, dude, this law of attraction is BS. All these people are scammy. I was like, this is all garbage. I don't want anything to do with this. Like, I got bitter. And then long story short, I saw one of my buddies. His name is Spencer Taylor. You might know of him. I saw him doing some really great things in the world, and he was making this world a better place. And he was actually Bob Proctor's videographer at one point, and he was now working with these monks, these Shaolin monks that were, had all these supernatural abilities. Out of pure like desperation, I pretty much asked him for a job, and I was like, dude, I'll work for you for free. I'll work for you for free. I just want to get out of this crappy, I hate door-to-door sales, and I just need to be a part of something positive. That's what I was feeling, because I went from like this door-to-door sales thing, and the environment was super toxic. They were literally doing like cocaine in the back room, literally Wolf of Wall Street type stuff. And I was like, okay, like I've always kind of been like a sensitive, I think decent, kind person. And I just was like, dude, this is not where I need to be. Something's wrong here. So I clinged on to Spencer, and I started doing the whole thing with Spencer. And I started making content for his company and promoting these monks and other spiritual things like numerology, astrology. I'm actually the pioneer of that entire industry on Instagram. Okay, this is like when I'm 20 years old now. So I'm doing all this stuff. And again, I'm thinking this is truth. And we're putting these monks on the map and this and that. Long story short, we all started to realize, hey, these monks aren't who they say they are. They're saying one thing, but they're behaving in another different way. And so we were like, we got to get out of here. So long story short, we parted ways with those guys, and we started doing our own thing. And that's when we started getting deeper into different esoteric spiritual teachings. I would call that New Age. That's another thing that I see a lot of people make the mistake. New Age is not everything opposite of Christianity. Like there is such a nuance to this conversation. You have Eastern mysticism, you have New Age, you have New Thought, you have the occult. These are not the same things, and they get lumped together. And I think that's really, 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 really stupid, because it doesn't allow you to discern things properly. Which is a whole nother video for a whole nother day. But I'm gonna, like, again, I've been dabbling in all of this since I was 16 years old. So my understanding of it is way deeper than the average person, because not only did I dabble in it, I built an entire business around it. And that's what you're gonna hear about now. Working with this company called Vibe Source, and I'm like being the pioneer of making all these new age spiritual things go super viral on Instagram. We partnered with this company called numerology.com, and we made like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Again, we're young kids, like we're going berserk, we're going crazy, like, and we think we're doing good, right? People were reading the comments, oh, this numerology report helped me change my life because it gave me some value here and there, and da 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 da. And we partnered with all these different companies. In that time, I felt like the company I was working with was holding me back. I was like, I can do more. Like, I'm the reason they're making all this money, because this wasn't my own company yet. I was working for Spencer and this man named Sean. And I was like, I can do way more than that. I can do way more than that. One part of the story I forgot to tell you was that after we parted ways with the monks, I was working still with Spencer. And this is when I got back into Bob Proctor's teachings. So I picked up Bob Proctor's book. You know, I started journaling, I started manifesting, I started dreaming again. You know, I was living in my grandma's basement at 21 years old. I had no money. And as a 17-year-old kid, I was this big shot with all this money, Mercedes-Benz, this and that. And I thought my road to success was going to be like that, but it wasn't. And I'm in my grandma's basement, literally living there. And it was dark, man. It was really dark. I was confused spiritually because of what happened with the monks. I had no money. Like, I was super, super lost. So I turned to what I knew. What I knew worked in the past, Bob Proctor stuff. So I started reading Bob Proctor's books. I started putting on Tony Robbins. I started listening to all these gurus. And I was like, man, like I gotta change my mindset, because I'm being negative. I'm getting pessimistic. I gotta dream again. I gotta believe things can change. I know I can do this, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, I write out this whole vision for my life. And it was something like this. It was like $10,000 a month, Los Angeles, something to that degree. And I start dreaming, I start visualizing, I start, manifesting. And then very shortly after, I get a call from Spencer, and he's like, bro, we got to move to Los Angeles, California. Now, this was always a dream of mine. I was like, why? Like, what's going on? He's like, dude, it's a long story. I need you there. We're going to be working on a documentary with Logan Paul to help him turn his life around, because he got into bad stuff, and now we're going to help him. And I was like all about helping people. That's what I believe I'm made for. Like, I still believe that. Obviously, the lane of which I think I can help people has changed and evolved in time. You know, when you're a kid, you're excited for these things. You want to get out of your current situations. I don't come from money. Like, I was living in my grandma's basement at 21 years old. Like, that's not the vision I had for my life. So I was like, yo, this manifesting stuff works. So long story short, within like less than a week, me and him packed our freaking bags and drove from Michigan to California. I put a picture here. This is us heading to go work on a documentary with Logan Paul. So we get there and we do that whole thing, and it was awesome. And I started hanging out with Spencer and Logan in the Maverick house, and I'm like, dude, this is incredible. I'm looking around, like, Logan's got this huge mansion. He's hilarious. There's all this stuff happening. And he also made some really big mistakes, and I felt we were all being a really positive influence on him. You know, at that time, we were really big into veganism, because that was something we learned from the monks, and we like made Logan go vegan, and we were doing like breath work with him and all these type of spiritual things to help him stop being crazy and whatever else. And I think overall we did have a good impact on him. Not, I played a little piece in this, Spencer much, much bigger. But in that time, I was still working for Spencer's company. So there was two sides of the company. There was the media side, like the actual media side, like documentaries and things like that. And then there was the spiritual social media side. So I was kind of playing in both camps. It was a small team, it was like 5 of us. And during the day, I'd shoot with Spencer and Logan. And in the evenings, I'd be editing, man. It was like full force. But again, it was awesome. So long story short, that's when I started to feel like Spencer and Sean were not seeing my real value. And I was like, yo guys, I'm making you a lot of money, and I'm only making like 2-3 grand a month. Like, come on, like there's more here. And I don't know all those details, and we were all kids and whatever. It doesn't matter. Me and Spencer are like, he's one of my best friends today. You know, we kind of had our period of separation, but we came back around. In the same time, I start dating this girl. And to make a long story really short, I find out she's cheating on me. Okay. So I find out she's cheating on me, and I figured that out through a variety of means. And I pretty much call her over because I'm like, yo, I'm going to approach this B. And I was pissed. And one thing you got to know about me is that my entire life, I've been very suppressed. I've always felt like a very big introvert. I've always been very empathic. So I've always kind of just kept to myself. And my dominant emotions I would mainly feel when I was like upset would be depression or sadness. That was my go-to. Anger and rage, that was so foreign to me. But for some reason, knowing that this woman cheated on me, I felt rage. And I felt rage in a way that I actually scared myself. And I started like punching holes in my closet in my LA studio apartment. I mean, I was literally going unconscious, but there was like this slight awareness, like I knew what I was doing, but I didn't care. Like the rage felt good. And I really, really gave into this. And I had never experienced anything like this in my life. And I actually had this really bizarre moment where I locked eyes with myself in my bathroom mirror. And the words that came out of my mouth were, Anton, you're being just like your father. And it scared the shit out of me. I was like, holy frick, my biggest fear is like literally coming true right now. So then I like shake it off, and I'm like, oh my God, I need help. I was like, I need help. Like I can't stop this anger. So for the first time in my life, like, you know, my background, I was not Christian. I was not anything other than like New Age spirituality and a little bit of Buddhism, Taoism, things like that. But something instinctively inside of me said, like, you need to pray to God, not Jesus, just God. So I sat down on my floor and I was like, God, I don't know what's going on, but I need help. Like, I could get emotional thinking about it. I was like, please help me. I was like, I need help. Like, I don't know what to do. Please help. That was it. That was the prayer. 10 minutes later, my girlfriend at the time walks through the door, and I just start like going off, and I'm like, I don't remember everything, you know, this is so many years ago, but it was something to the effect of like, you know all my past pain, how could you do this to me, I've been so nice to you, I've helped you, da 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 da, you know, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And all of a sudden it felt like God or an angel or something just put their hands on my shoulders, and I just like broke down, and I was just crying like a baby. And this woman was so sweet, you know, she was standing there and just holding space for me and being so kind. But I really feel like that was my first encounter with the Lord, and I didn't even know, you know, maybe it was God the Father, I don't know, it doesn't matter. It was very powerful, and it was so pure. In all of this, I realized what was playing out was trauma. My girlfriend at the time, she actually didn't cheat on me. And I could see the truth now, because like some veil had been lifted, because like I was just replaying my own old past pain of abandonment and people I love hurting me. So we did end up breaking up. But after that, I went on this like spiritual conquest, because I tried to figure out what happened to me. But see, this is why you have to be rooted in God. Because I had nowhere to go, and I didn't think about church. I didn't think about any of that stuff. Sorry. There's a lot here, you know, because I got so deceived, and it just really, a lot of bad things happened because of it. But, sorry, I'm getting so emotional. I ended up picking up a book from Joe Dispenza. And I read this book, and it was like my Bible. I was like, oh my God, this has all the answers. This is the truth. And I just went so deep. I went so balls to the walls. I started doing all the meditations because I correlated my spiritual experience with my prayer to Joe's work. And it was not the same. It was not the same. And I know that now for a firm fact. This was like the second big deception of my life. And I fell for it like an idiot because I wasn't grounded in the Word of God. So I'm taking Joe Dispenza as Jesus. Like, that's how I see it. And long story short, I'm not even going to share you the story, but by pure coincidence, I end up at one of his events without paying for it. Free trip, free travel, free everything. And I go to that event and I'm like, this is it. This is the truth, capital T truth. This is what I've been missing. This is everything I've ever wanted. And it felt so real. I was like, this is it. And then I was like, why doesn't everybody know about Joe Dispenza? And I was thinking, I was like, I have social media skills. I could help him. Another crazy coincidence. I ended up on the last night at a dinner I was not supposed to be at. I ended up seeing Joe, pitching Joe, and to not bore you with the details, I ended up getting my first solo contract away from Spencer and Sean and Vibe Source with Joe Dispenza. So I went from making $3,000 a month to $12,000 a month overnight. So now I'm equating all this work I'm doing, all the manifesting, all the things that Joe talks about to this success. And I would argue that's true. All of that did happen because I was dabbling. I was starting to dabble in the occult. And I didn't even know. I really was convinced. Sorry. There's just a lot of pain here, guys. It was so dark at times. And it disguises itself as so much pure, innocent love, and that's not what it is. That's part of the deception. If evil was so noticeable and so detectable, we would steer away from it. It's smarter than that, so it has to deceive you, and it deceives the most innocent people. And that's why I'm so driven to pull these people down, man, because what they're doing isn't right. They're leading people straight into hell with a smile on their face. So long story short, I ended up making Joe Dispenza famous. And when I started with him, he had 20,000 followers. When I ended with him, he had 1.7 million. And there's a lot of stuff that happened there that I can't talk about right now. But I saw the wolf in sheep's clothing. And he's still deceiving people. And he knows what he's doing. And he knows I know what he's doing. And there's a whole nother thing about that, but I can't go too deep into that now because it'll pull away from the main point of this video. So, long story short, because I made Joe famous, I started growing a reputation. And all these other spiritual leaders in the space were like, yo, who's running Joe's social media? Who's doing this? So I got calls every single week, referrals every single week. And I'm like thinking like, look, I'm doing the Lord's work. Like I'm doing God's work. I'm helping people become enlightened. I'm helping people find the truth. And next thing I know, I'm making like $60,000, $70,000 a month by the time I was 23 years old. Building up all these spiritual teachers, Billy being one of them. I'm not even going to name all the names. Really sorry, guys. It's a lot for me, as you can tell. I was so deceived and I was so blinded. So in this time, I meet the most beautiful woman of my life, the most beautiful woman I've ever met. And she was like God sent. She was like an angel. And she was also a Christian. And I never met somebody so pure, so beautiful. And I, because I was so deceived her. And I was like, yo, your religion is garbage. Like, those people are just trying to keep you limited. Now, I will say, there is some truth in that. She was a part of a certain division of Christianity that is not fully rooted in the Bible, and I don't want to say what it is because it doesn't matter, but she still had the Holy Spirit. She still read her Bible, and she was so innocent. And I come in, Mr. Big Shot, I got all the spiritual answers. His head was so inflated, and long story short, I started like showing her like, oh, you should try this meditation. You should do this type of thing. You should do this type of thing. You should have this. We should do Kundalini together. We should do this. We should do that. This is how I have mystical experiences. You could have them too, because not only was I running a business, but I was doing these practices and I was doing crazy stuff and leaving my body and having all these spiritual experiences. And I pulled her straight into hell with me. And long story short, this is when I was like, yo, I could do more than just this business. I could be a teacher. And this is how it all happens. And that's a whole nother video for a different time. But I was like, I could be a teacher of this information. So I started off teaching it. First, it was breath work, and her and I did it together. And we're helping people, and they're changing her lives. And she has her spiritual gifts, and I have mine. And we're seeing people have all these breakthroughs. And I'm like, man, this is it. This is like the dream. Her and I, it was so beautiful in a lot of ways. But again, it wasn't really rooted in God. I think her end was a little bit more than me. I was like, I wanted the fame. I wanted the money. I wanted the power. Like, yes, I liked helping people. But that was a secondary thought. Honestly, if I'm being fully transparent, that was a secondary thought, man. I saw Joe Dispenza, all my teachers, and I was like, I want what they have, and I can do it better than them. I mean, I really believed that. So that's what I did. And I chased it. And her and I started having deep conflicts because she disagreed with my approach of sharing the wisdom and I disagreed with her approach. And because I was such a because I was such a boy, I said, screw you. Like, you don't want to be my girl. You don't want to do things my way. I'm gone. And there's more to it than that. And she would tell you the same. But I was an asshole for somebody like she was actually part of the reason how I started to see Dispenza's deception. She was like, Anton, that guy is not who he says he is. I'm like, what are you talking about? Joe Dispenza, coolest dude in the world. Like, da-da-da. She's like, dude, that guy is not. And she was telling me, and she was kind of like in the background, but I think she didn't want to overstep because she didn't want to make me feel disempowered. And I was so immature and I wasn't grounded in anything real. And I was living in LA at this time. And I was like, and then we got into this like whole polarity thing. I started learning a lot about polarity and getting like really deep into David Dita's work and all those kind of like tantric teachings. And I was like, yo, like if you don't want to submit to me, rightfully so, because I couldn't even take care of myself. How could I possibly handle her? I was like splitting the rent with her. I was such a little boy. And doing all these things. And by the way, I was splitting the rent, but I was making 10x the amount of money than her. I mean, I was a coward. I was a pure coward, blinded by money and empowered, all this bullshit. And then this girl, man, this is so long ago. I still get this worked up over it because I've never met a more beautiful soul. So I leave LA. I said, I'm gone. I'm chasing my dream. You're holding me back. And this is when I got really deep into Tony Robbins. I took his $100,000 mastermind. I moved to Florida and I just started going really hard. I was like, I'm building this coaching business. Like I am the next Tony Robbins. I'm going so hard, so hard. I'm gaining so momentum. My first year in my coaching business, I did $500,000. It was innocent, right? I wasn't teaching Joe's stuff. I was teaching my own flavor of Joe and Tony kind of mixed without like the super esoteric aspects. So it was very grounded. And I also was teaching a lot about masculinity and polarity and these things. And long story short, I had so much momentum. Like I was like, yo, I'm going to be the biggest, the best. People are transforming their lives. I did an event with like 60 people and they all were like out of their minds. And I just was on this roll. And while I was at one of my events, it was the last day and everyone's out of their mind. It was like a 6-day event. And one of the women who were there was demon possessed. And she attacked me. And this demon was so powerful. Nothing in the occult, nothing in the new age, nothing could disarm this thing. And I was like freaking out. And long story short, I used all the stuff. We gathered around her. We tried to like send her love and all this stuff. We disarmed her, but nobody called on Jesus. Jesus wasn't even in my radar. And this experience rocked me. When she was attacking me, in my mind, I was seeing all this satanic symbolism. And I was wise enough to know it's satanic. I was seeing like upside down crosses. I mean, it was so weird. And again, like I wasn't a Christian. And I was like, it rocked me. It rocked me for an entire year. I was not the same person. I was having nightmares every single night. And the resources I called upon, like energy workers and this thing and that thing, and nothing helped. Literally, nothing helped. And this is when And this is when Jesus started to reveal himself to me in the most supernatural ways. And I don't even want to talk about that because it's kind of personal. I'll share it at some point, but I don't think it matters. And just all these weird things started to happen to me. And that's when I was like, Jesus. And I started looking into it deeper. I bought the Bible. I started buying books like Wild at Heart. And I started reading these things, and I started having these really supernatural experiences while I was reading the Word. I feel like these energies just come and like purify me. And I just kept going. And then I'd go like 2 steps in and 1 step back because I was scared. I was like, oh my God, if this is the truth, I'm screwed. How am I gonna make money? Like my whole business revolves around these spiritual leaders. I was like, and they all talk about Jesus, but they all don't talk about what this text says here. I was like, this is 2 different Jesuses. And it started to freak me out. And then one thing led to another and led to another. And this whole part here could be 5 hours because this is multiple years. And I mean, I just went over 10 years in like less than 40 minutes. So, you know, there's a lot here, but I just want to give people context of where I'm coming from. And hopefully you can feel my heart and my sincerity. Like, these spiritual leaders are not who they say they are, and they're deceiving millions, and I've seen it all behind the curtain, and they all know I know, and they've tried to do all types of things to stop me in the spiritual realm, and it's gotten so dark, man. But by the grace of Christ, I'm still here, and I pray to God every day, like, to help give me the strength, because it's really scary for me to be saying this stuff. Because I know about the dark forces of spirituality. Like, this stuff is very real, guys. This is not a game. This is very, 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 very real. So long story short, I'm rattled. And I'm like, dude, I can't do another event. And then my mind comes in and is like, no, like, this is your hero's journey. This is your dragon. You're gonna let the demon win. Like, you're meant to be the next Joe Dispenza. And I'm like so conflicted because I'm reading the Bible, but I also believe still in some of like the occult stuff. And I'm like so confused. And I'm like, and then I just gave in. I was like, dude, come on, like, no. I was like, the Bible is the truth, but there's definitely more to this, and there's still wisdom to be found in other places. And I believe that's true. But I took it too extreme. And I was like, F you, demon. Like, I'm doing another event. So I did. And nothing went bad. And I was like, okay, like, I could keep doing this. Like, this is good. But something in my spirit was just like, no, like, there's something more here, and you have to start exploring it. And one of my clients, who was my client, I coached him and I helped him. Even like with the new age stuff, I did help him. He was in a really toxic relationship. He was a very soft, you know, typical like nice guy. I was like, dude, you got to build the center. And I would do things like fire walks and ice baths to like empower people. And I still believe in that stuff. Again, anything could be taken too far here. And I really feel like I touched his life, and he's such a good guy. And then he found Jesus, and all the people at that retreat that with that demon possessed woman ended up finding Jesus. And I'm like, not on the train. I'm like, dude, I don't fully, I see it, but like there's more truths here. And I'm looking through the lens of like Carl Jung, and I'm looking through the lens of symbolism, kind of some Jordan Peterson stuff. So I'm not fully there yet. And then, you know, all that kind of core group of people became Christians. And I felt kind of like they didn't accept me anymore. Like, a couple of them unfollowed me, and I was like, yo, I love you guys. Like, just because you believe in Jesus doesn't mean we can't be friends. And I just felt the resistance. And then one day I get like a text from Michael, my client, you know, and somebody who we've had pretty intimate times. And Michael, brother, if you're watching this, dude, I love you so much, man. I cannot thank you enough. He invited me to his wedding. And I felt really loved and accepted and not judged. And I went to his wedding. And while I was there, and everybody there is a Christian. Everybody, and like a real Christian, like people who really believe the word of God and practice it and just don't talk a good game. People who really love God. It was a really small, beautiful, intimate wedding. And while I was there, man, I was under all type of warfare. It was insane. Like, it was insane. Like, I was feeling things like, oh, you can't go to the wedding. Like, you have a demon inside of you. These people don't accept you. Like, who do you, like, why are you even here? It was crazy.
It was crazy. And the whole time they were so gracious and so loving. And, that was huge for me because I saw the fruits of Michael's life. I was like, dude, Christ is real. Like, and I already believed Christ was real, but I saw it at such a different level. And I was like, I felt so accepted by them. His wife, all my old friends, these were people that went to my retreats, but no longer were on that train. And it was just really, there was so much grace. There was so much grace in that all. They just started praying for me. Michael, his whole gang, his whole Christian friends, everybody, they just started praying for me. And I started to see, I was like, oh my God, I think Jesus is actually God. And I started reading and I got super serious. And I started and I was already going to churches, but I took it up 10 notches. I started going to non-denominational, Catholic, Baptist. And then I landed at the Orthodox Church and I was setting up meetings with priests and I was telling them what I experienced. And while I was at the Orthodox Church, I was just having a conversation with my priest, and similar to Michael, I was telling him all this bad stuff I've done, and he was just so gracious, just smiling, just like, yeah, and he was so sweet, and he pointed to the wall. He's like, oh yeah, this saint here, she was actually a prostitute, and look, she's on the wall, she's a saint, we venerate her, she was messed up, just like you. And he's telling me about St. Paul, he's telling me about all these people. And he was just so gracious. And I didn't feel an ounce, not an ounce of judgment. None. I just felt the pure love of Christ. And I was like, man, this is my home. And from there, everything in my life just got so much better. I can't even begin to describe it. Not better in terms of making more money. Not better in, getting on more stages. No, man. Better in my heart. Started becoming actually a decent human being when I could see my own wickedness. I was like, dude, why am I charging $10,000, $20,000 a month for coaching? Who the F do I think I am? And I just started seeing myself for the piece of crap I was. You guys might not think it, but I was wicked, man, and I thought I was righteous. And my priest was just like, yeah, man, you're going to have to stop being a prostitute at some point. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm going to have to transition my business. And I've done that, and I'm still doing that. And this is when I met Mark Menard, and he's also a Christian. And there's a whole nother backstory with that, where I was under all types of warfare, and he was so gracious to me. And that was just the pattern. Just graciousness from Christians accepting me. Yeah, and I just enrolled as a catechumen in the church, and I started going to liturgy and Vespers multiple times a week, and I've just started feeling the grace of the Holy Spirit, and I'm just I'm at the liturgy, and they're praying, I'm crying, and I'm just feeling cleansed by God and cleaned and made new. And I just for the first time in my life, I was like, oh my God. The thing I rejected, the thing I thought was the most dogmatic, is the truth. And it was just ego shattering. And I just surrendered my life to God. And I was like, Jesus, God, whatever you want from me, I'll do it. If you want me to be your sword, I'll be your sword. If you want me to be a voice of truth, I'll be whatever you want, I'll do it. And I sat on that thought for 6 months. I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I was still kind of coaching, but I wasn't doing any new age stuff. It was all masculine in business and helping people with business strategy, because I do actually know how to run a company. I'm actually a decent entrepreneur, believe it or not. But I always have been drawn more to spiritual stuff. It's just always been how I was. So yeah, I gave up everything. I used to live on the beach in Boca Raton, Florida, 50 yards away from the ocean. Gave it up. Moved to Michigan because I was like, I need to be by my family. I need to be by people who really love me, not because I have something to offer them like my social media services, but because they genuinely care about me. And, I started talking to my grandma and having dinner with her and just sharing things about God. And, there always felt like there was a disconnect between me and my family. And that's all gone now. So it's like these little things, man, it means the world to somebody who has been so burned by so many powerful people, and looking like, oh yeah, this guy's a good guy. Look, he's changing millions of lives. He's a good person. And then just seeing pure evil behind the scenes. Like, it's insane. And these are all videos, but I'm sorry, this is like super emotional. I don't even know if I can post this, to be honest. I gotta watch this back. But it's real. You know, I don't know what to tell you guys. It's real. You can think I'm being un-Christ-like, exposing people like Billy, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy to go through what I had to go through spiritually. Like, I actually can't believe I'm alive. Like, that's how bad it got. I shit you not. And I literally just thank God every day. I'm just like, thank you. You know, it's not been easy. I don't know why you fully put me through that, but the only thing I can muster up is like, he put me through it because I have something really big to share. I have something that is going to help a lot of people. And even just this Billy piece, reading through the comments saying people are coming back to Jesus, I'm like, man, that's the greatest gift I could give anybody. Like, I told Michael, the guy who invited me to his wedding, I'm like, dude, you don't understand. You've given me the greatest gift of life. Like, thank you. And he doesn't want anything in return. And that's the beautiful thing about Christianity. God doesn't want anything from you. He just wants you to turn away from your wickedness. And when you do, at first, there's like nothing. But then all of a sudden the fruits come and it's just so overwhelming. Like, the relationships fostered in my life from making these decisions are so genuine. I have friends that really care about me. All my old friends, they don't really give a shit about me. It was always like, what can I do for you? How can you help me? I'll help you. It was always trading. It wasn't real love. And I feel the opposite of that every day of my life now. And I'm so freaking grateful. I'm so grateful. So yeah, that's the short version. I said I was going to keep this under an hour. I'm looking at the time. It's been almost an hour. But yeah, there's a lot more to this conversation. And I'm really sorry if some of you feel this is a little overly emotional. It's just, I've been through a lot of pain, if you can't see that. And I found so much healing in the Lord. And I'm just grateful. And I really want everybody to experience this, because it's life-changing and it's not easy. I won't say that at all. I'm still transitioning things in my life. But I think I'm giving it a real solid attempt, and I'm really trying to be better, and I'm just trying to be a better human being. And this whole video going viral, it's been a little bit overwhelming for me because there's mixed things in the comments, and I'm just like, man, I'm not trying to hurt Billy. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to hurt any of these people. I believe there's a really good Billy in there. I've seen it. I won't say I haven't, but I just think what he's doing is very wrong in terms of leading people spiritually. And you can see why I have a fire in my heart to expose this, because another thing I'll add, a lot of this drive is because me and my ex, the Christian woman I was telling you about, you know, she ended up getting super deceived, and I don't know if she's come back. And it breaks my heart, because and she was Christian. If she can be deceived, I'm telling you guys, anybody can be deceived. And that's why you have to be so cautious of dabbling in the occult, in new thought, in new age, in mysticism, because all the demons need is legal rights. And you give them those, they will enter. And you might think it's a positive thing, and they're just roping you into some ultimate destiny that is not God's design for you. So a lot of my drive in doing all of this is like, I think about her and I think about us. I'm like, dude, I would never, ever, ever want somebody to lose the love of their life over this freaking bullshit. I'm sorry. I would never want somebody to go through the years of pain and darkness spiritually I had to go through because of these spiritual teachings. Oh my God. I even like justified. I was like, even if Christ isn't real, it's better than this crap. Like, that's what I had to start telling myself, because I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But then I was like, oh no, I know it is real. And I was like, okay, that's it. If anybody's watching this and you're in the new age and you're in the occult, or you're dealing with mysticism on different levels, or new thought, whatever, you have to consider the Bible in this equation. If you claim to be spiritual, why do you
refuse one of the most sound texts, literally, that we have. It's something you should question, because what I found personally was that there was so much resistance in me towards that. And if you know anything about shadow work, I'll speak your language. Why are you resisting it? You should wonder that. And that's what I started wondering. I was like, why am I resisting this? Why am I resisting people with the Holy Spirit? Why am I can't hang out and talk with my friends and like feeling like all these things? Because there was some spiritual thing happening. And it wasn't until I started reading the Word of God, going to Bible studies. Also, I got to shout out my friend Josiah. Josiah was a huge part of this. Another very gracious, loving Christian. He's one of the best Muay Thai fighters in Michigan, and he started a Bible study. And I just started going to it, and it's been profound, and it's been life-changing. So you have to, I would really recommend considering the text. Just consider it. I'm not saying it's the truth. For me it is, but if you claim to be a truth seeker, you cannot leave this out. And so if you say, oh, well, what about all the people that have killed people in the name of God? Sure, but that's not Jesus. That's something different. Christianity has become a religion, but it's not a religion if you really look to its roots. Religion killed Jesus, and the faith has been preserved by all the apostles who died for Jesus. They died, decapitated, deskinned. I mean, the worst deaths, and all they had to say is what I experienced wasn't true. Jesus is not God. And they didn't say it, and they died. And this has been happening for thousands of years. So you have to at least consider it. But again, I'm not here to sell you anything. Hopefully my testimonial speaks for itself. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So with that, whew.